Jinsuwen was just an ordinary student with a huge love for murim novels and survival games. Once he walked away from the army, he made a promise to himself to work his tail off and finally straighten his life out. But one final game was just enough to pull him back. Sayo, a top survivor of the loyal ground, was sure he knew more about staying alive than anyone else. But the next morning, a strange glow appeared right behind him. Before he could even move, he was yanked into a new world where losing might cost him far more than just a game. As he wakes up in a strange place, he wonders if this is punishment for letting his drive to study die in just one day. He finally opens his eyes to a blindingly bright and deafeningly loud world. He manages to sit up and is shocked to find a crowd of people standing all around him. Some are even battling their own selves with a sword. Siwon thinks the group are cosplayers based on their outfits, but their mix of different languages makes their words sound like gibberish to him. Siwon stands up and sees a huge statue in the distance that scares him, making him wonder just how he ended up here. Suddenly, a window pops up to tell him that 100 players have been spotted. At the same time, a voice speaks directly inside his head. Just then, the statue's eyes began to blaze with bright light, and Siwon was told that the system was waking up. A few moments later, they tell him that the languages have finally matched up. Siwon is still in the dark, until suddenly he realizes he can understand everyone, as if they've all started speaking Korean. He spots two guys, the mage Escrow and the ugly-faced Chiron, arguing about how they ended up in this weird spot. It turns out Escrow is an archmage, but Chiron works for the Demon King. After Escrow blasts Chiron with a bolt of lightning because he's fed up with his ugly face, Chiron screams in shock, but when the storm clears, he's still standing tall. Chiron is stunned to find himself alive after taking a deadly blow, yet he feels nothing, so Escrow angrily blames him for dragging them to this strange new world, while Xiao watches the chaos and realizes this can't be a dream. Just as they were notified that the game was about to start with an easy difficulty level, they learned that to get into the top 90, they need to conquer the kingdom's capital, though beating into the top 10 would earn them even better rewards. They skip the tutorial and learn that in the waiting room, players can attack each other without getting hurt. Suddenly, a map pops up in front of them, and Siwon realizes they are inside a game. The system shows that the game is called Clod Survival and offers a quick guide for anyone joining for the first time. The game will last for 100 days, but every single day, the map will shrink a little bit more. They're warned not to step into the forbidden area because it could hurt them badly. The system tells them the game won't stop until there's only one person left standing. Once the game ends, or they get knocked out, they go back home, but anyone who doesn't reach the top 90 is banned from playing ever again. Then the system says they're about to drop into the map to grab items that will help them reach the top 90. After hearing all this, he can't believe his ears and starts thinking he must be dreaming about a loyal ground. Then it hits him that he might not stand a chance against the strange humans around him. Even if it's just a dream, he refuses to let go and won't accept death. Siwon was deep in thought about his next move when a rival player suddenly mocked his messy hair, throwing the insult right in his face. The huge guy brandishes a massive sword and yells at Siwon for acting suspicious, demanding to know his origin, while Siwon's silence only makes the brute angrier. He screams at Siwon again, demanding to know where he is from. Just as Siwon realizes the game begins in 3 seconds, he breaks into a smile that makes the other guy even angrier. Right as he's about to be whisked away, Siwon gives the guy a middle finger because he's convinced the guy knows the loyal ground well enough to survive and beat riffraff just like him. Before he could speak or move, the game began and everyone was suddenly falling from the sky. Seeing everyone rush into dangerous, treasure-filled zones, Shun wisely chooses to stick to the safe edges instead. He spots a lonely house far away, then yells the word descend to swoop right down in front of it. The instant he lands, sickness crashes into him. But even as he struggles to fight it off, a strange rustling noise makes him panic. His blurry vision made him run to the house, and he realized he couldn't see who had landed with him because the motion sickness had messed up his eyes. Siwon sprints into the house, knowing he's in big trouble if he bumps into an enemy without any weapon to defend himself. Siwon dragged himself into one of the rooms and sat down to catch his breath. As the game began, he started to wonder if the guy he had provoked was following him, and Siwon quickly regretted his decision. He peeks through the window, and seeing no one around, he decides the noise was just the wind. Once things settled down, he decided to walk through the house looking for stuff. The first thing he grabs is a heavy crossbow, and as soon as he lifts it, he feels just how much weight he's holding. But he has no choice, for it is better than nothing. He also realizes that the moment he strapped on the weapon, all the secrets of how to use it flooded into his mind. He knocks his crossbow, aims with a showy grin, and brags that his time as a South Korean army sergeant makes this target easy. Seo-won fires his crossbow, sending the bolt flying backward so hard that the shock wave knocks him off his feet, and when he finally gets up, he sees the bolt has punched a clean hole right through the wall. It hits him right away that he could go far if he learns to use the crossbow right. Once he stood up, he glanced around the house, but found nothing else of use inside. Even so, he isn't discouraged since he knows the map is huge and he'll easily find more loot later. Seo-won walks into another house and discovers a scroll there. He takes a look and sees that it is a tiny scroll that can heal wounds. As soon as Seo-won tears the scroll to heal his wounds, he's shocked by the power and rushes to grab even more recovery items. Seo-won really wants to find an item bag, so he can finally stop worrying about where to put all his stuff. Suddenly, he spots a book far away and lunges to snatch it up. It turns out the book is about a martial art called Black Star-Chi Palms, where fighters can project hidden weapons right from their fingers. The system asks him if he wants to learn the technique, and Seo-won agrees, secretly hoping a tutorial is coming. Just then, a sudden burst of blinding light slammed into him, and the book vanished right into his body. He decides to give it a try, grabs a fork, and hurls it at the wall. He was thrilled to see the fork zooming across the room until it slammed into the wall, smashing a giant hole right into it. Sun grins after picking up a martial arts book from the pile, while Seo-won realizes the shelves must hold some magic books too. Even so, he still hopes that Cloyd's survival and their loyal ground mean the same thing in this game. After searching everywhere with nothing to show for it, he decides it's time to move on and find a new place. Before he could blink, night fell and Seo-won knew he had to find a safe spot to hide. Soon after, he spots a house with lights still on, which makes him worry it might be a trap. This leaves us with two possibilities. Either a rare treasure is hiding inside that house, or someone is camping out there. Still, he slips inside the house, but keeps a sharp eye out for danger. He realizes he has no clue how many people landed near him, but they always fall into one of two camps, total beginners or master experts. After checking the first floor and finding nothing at all, he wonders if whoever is inside is hiding upstairs. He quickly weighs his choices, use the fighting skills he just learned, or fire the crossbow he's holding. Seo-won creeps up the stairs to the second floor, his crossbow locked on the door, ready to take out any enemy that shows up. As he climbs to the top floor, he finds only a simple lantern on the table, with no sign of any real danger. He steps into a new room, wondering if it's a trap. He smashes through the door, bracing for a fight, only to find the room empty. Seo-won slumps to his knees in relief. Realizing the empty room means he was just scared for nothing. He scans the area and spots a ring named the Ring of Strength, which boosts his power by 20 points the moment he puts it on. Seo-won slipped the ring onto his finger. The instant he does it, he feels his body suddenly become much lighter. In fact, the heavy crossbow on his back felt as light as nothing at all. He checks his details to see just how much those 20 points are worth. Seo-won looks crushed by his weak stats until he finds a ring that boosts him, and then he checks his class and sees he's a martial artist. Seo-won smiles, feeling grateful for the blessing he has since arrived. He then looks under the floor and soon finds a special ring that can hold items inside a hidden space. Seo-won is puzzled by the rings until he reads the subspace rings manual and realizes it acts like an inventory. So he tries saying subspace, and a tiny portal pops right in front of him. He tosses a healing scroll into the bag and finds it way better than hauling a heavy pouch around. Sun admits that something like this would be amazing if it actually existed in the real world. The truth is, everything he's discovered so far would be absolutely mind-blowing if he could bring it back to the real world. He remembers he must check how many players are left since some might already be dead, so he glances at the info window tucked away in the corner. To his shock, just one person had left the game since it began. Seo-won keeps searching for treasure, only to find himself overwhelmed by a sudden flood of hidden weapons that fit perfectly with his Black Star-Chi palms. After cleaning out the house and planning to move on, he suddenly finds himself wondering if he should just sleep there overnight instead. Since he realized he couldn't fight off the tough men he'd seen in the lobby, he decided that staying hidden was his only safe option. He sneaks into the top 90, knowing it means more treasure is waiting for him. Since the night is quiet with fewer people around, Seo-won decides to check one more house before sunrise. Soon, Seo-won notices that he's not getting tired at all despite moving for a while, all thanks to the Ring of Strength he found. But that doesn't mean he isn't hungry or thirsty anymore. He's just trying to pretend the game feels just like real life. He keeps going, dreaming of a city where he can finally find something to eat. He hears a terrifying growl right behind him and bolts for safety. He takes a slow step back, almost dropping his pants with fear as he realizes he has wandered deep into werewolf territory. Before he can even catch his breath, a werewolf lunges at him with razor-sharp claws, but Seo-won barely dodges the deadly strike. Sweat poured down his face with terror, for he had only believed he was in a simple player versus player game where monsters could never appear. Siwon wishes he had stayed safe inside instead of searching for loot, so he sprints across the wasteland until a house finally comes into view. With every ounce of his strength, he sprints toward the house to hide inside. But the werewolves are still hunting him, and Siwon is left wondering what he's supposed to do in a moment like this. Siwon peeks through the crack in the door and sees the werewolf sniffing around, trying to catch his scent. Since the monster doesn't know where he is, he realizes he'd be best off taking it down first. Siwon pulls back the bowstring and releases a sharp bolt that flies straight at the wolf. The bolt zips through the air at a crazy speed and slams into the werewolf, sending it crashing to the ground in agony. So Siwon knows he must figure out how to handle the last one. All his calm plans vanish instantly when the last wolf charges straight at the house to attack him. Siwon dodges the attack and leaps back to fire his crossbow, but the werewolf blocks the bolt with its arm and lunges at him, causing Siwon's life to flash before his eyes before he refuses to give up and reaches into his hidden stash for a weapon. As the wolf lunges, he strikes back with a secret weapon hidden in his black, starchy palms. The dagger shoots through the wolf's chest, ripping its insides and making a huge hole that kills it instantly. Siwon smirks, telling the lowly servant he won't die today. Even though Siwon bragged about being the best, he was terrified he'd nearly been killed by a werewolf. He was thankful he had saved that old throwing dagger, because there was no way he wanted to die so badly by a werewolf that he'd have to laugh about it. Just then, he notices the dead werewolf has left behind some loot, and he rushes forward to take a look. To his great dismay, he discovers it's nothing but water and dried meat. He's furious about this because he could just go out and hunt for food anytime he wanted. Despite his hesitation, he looks around and spots some armor lying there, wondering if it's like the bulletproof vest from Loyal Ground. Sean grabs the item and tries it on, only to find it way too big for him. Before he can pull it off, the armor reshapes itself to fit his body. The system informs him that he has equipped a powerful breastplate that helps him resist fire and wind magic. Xiao feels great about it, since it boosted over 2 of his stats. Thrilled with his new armor, he turns his attention to the rest of the room in search of more treasures. After searching for a long time and nearly quitting, he finally finds a cloak that turns him invisible in the dark the moment he stands still. As long as he stays hidden, magic can't find him and all his sounds vanish. So Siwon grins at this rare gift that lets him slip past anyone he meets in the dark. Siwon realizes this is the only thing that will keep him alive. He was puzzled by the strange house standing alone in the empty land, unaware that it was actually a treasure chest waiting to be found. Shun shrugs off his good luck on the second day and keeps moving forward, puzzled by the fact that he hasn't met a single soul yet. He thinks he must have fallen into a random spot, but then he hears someone breathing hard as they run far away. He stammers a few sorry words, wishing he'd used the item on time to make a difference. Siwon slips into the shadows, and thanks to his cloak, the other guy never spots him. The man keeps rambling about never expecting to find a mage out there, while Siwon quietly aims his crossbow at the guy, thinking he looks too weak to be real. But he hesitates, then tells himself he's just playing a game and the person isn't real. Before he could even decide, a sudden burst of fire tore through the woods and roasted the guy right there. After he vanishes and leaves a chest behind with no body in sight, Siwon realizes they're playing a game, only to find the attacker suddenly appears before him holding a fiery ball. Sun nearly screams out in terror, but he clamps his hand over his mouth to keep the sound inside. He is grateful for his cloak, thanks to the fact that the other man walked right past him without noticing him. Next, the stranger moves toward the chest to take what he wants, and Siwon realizes he is likely the next target on the stranger's list. He realizes that someone might kill him just to climb higher in the ranks. Since things stand this way, he'd be wise to act first and strike before anyone else does. Someone shoots a bolt at the guy, but it jams right into his barrier. The guy instantly realizes he's being attacked, starts panicking, and fears he's made too much noise. Siwon shoots another bolt that jams right into the guy's barrier. The dude is freaking out because he can't see who's attacking him, and if things keep going like this, his protective shield will finally break. The player blasts a fireball into the smoke where he thinks Siwon is hiding, wiping out everything in sight, but he's completely off his mark because before he can catch his breath, a second bolt strikes him from behind. The bolt breaks his shield, and he wildly blasts fireballs in every direction he can imagine. Suddenly, a dagger shoots into his head, shattering his brain and sending him crashing to the ground while sweat pours down his face. So Siwon knows he has won and moves toward the man's chest. Siwon realizes he needs to farm quickly and escape before anyone sees the fire and heads his way. Son looks the mage over, finds a chest, and quickly grabs whatever random stuff he can find inside. He discovers a pure gold necklace that marks a mage in escrow society, and even though Shun thinks it's just worthless trash with no power, he keeps it anyway, just in case. Just then, he discovers a circle stone that lets him carve a ring around his heart, unlocking his ability to use mana. Having touched the circle's magic, Sun realizes he can now become a mage just like the one he saw before. He recalls that the guy never got a chance to use that item, which is exactly why he said those earlier words. Sun offers his deepest sympathies and vows to put the item to good use himself. He picks up the rest of the chest, tosses it into his special storage pocket, and heads to a safe place to look through it. After wandering for a bit, he spots a house that feels like a safe place to use the stone from the circle. Before he starts, he's told to stay perfectly still for 3 hours with no chance to move or do anything else. Besides, he'll feel a little sting as the circle comes together. Seo-won forces himself to endure the agony, swallowing his scream to keep the players from noticing him. When the 3 hours finally ended, Seo-won stared in shock because the system had promised only slight pain, yet what he felt was so intense it felt like he was dying. He quickly sees that mastering martial arts is a breeze compared to the tricky business of magic. He checks his stats and is shocked to find he is now both a martial artist and a mage. So with his old friends gone, he counts the players again. He was bracing himself for a small number, only to be stunned when he discovered just 45 people were left alive. He glances at the list of the dead and sees that one player named Nam Sagwang has taken down almost everyone. Hours ago, Nam, who looked like a kid, ran through other players as if they weren't even there. Nam wants all the eyes on him by slaughtering players in the most brutal way possible. On the third day, Seo-won is panicking as he realizes just how many people have already died. Seo-won is terrified of crossing paths with Nam, because if he does, he'll end up dead, just like Nam. At the same moment, he sees that if Nam keeps slaughtering people, he might just find his way into the top 10. He wonders if the prizes for the top 10 will be just items and money as promised, or if maybe the skills and things they find in the game will actually work in the real world. He quickly shoves that worry aside because a murderer is loose outside, yet he's already gloating about his victory before it even happens. Siwon feels a new surge of power inside him, guesses it might be called mana, and recalls the magic book he found the day before. There is a special magic book called the Magic Book of Windball that lets you make wind spheres, and the stronger you get, the more of them you can create. Then Sun learns it just like a martial arts book, with the knowledge sinking straight into his mind. Once he has it all inside, he shouts the magic words to summon a wind sphere. To his disappointment, he only manages to conjure up a few tiny wind orbs. Feeling let down, he throws the spheres at the wall, only to find they cause far more destruction than he ever expected. Suddenly, he realizes the spheres look deceptively weak, but that very illusion means they'll be exactly what he needs when the time comes. Just then, he felt suddenly tired and checked his mana, only to find it completely empty. Soon, the forbidden area showed up on the map, and the ranks began to fade away. Sun chooses to farm items while staying near the edge, hoping that with half the players already dead, he won't run into anyone else. Still, he has no choice but to grab everything fast before the forbidden area shrinks. Without him knowing, a white-haired old man has been watching him the whole time. 12 hours later, he spots a cluster of houses filled with chests left behind by players who have died. All at once, he senses someone standing near him, so he instantly fires the wind spheres right where he thinks they are. This explosion rips through the area, and when he looks down, he spots blood dripping on the floor, showing that someone is hurt nearby. He's sure that whoever this is must be mighty strong, considering they've managed to survive this long. He thought about ending the life of the injured person, but he pulled back to make sure he could stay alive. Once the other guy left, the person hiding behind the wall finally stepped out to thank his lucky stars he stayed safe, admitting he'd surely be dead if he had been caught. The player walked out of the house, saying he could have easily defeated Sayun if only he hadn't been hurt. The guy moves to a chest to grab some stuff, so he can speed away. But before he could pick up even one thing, a bolt flew straight through his head. He hits the ground with a thud and passes away, leaving only his chest behind. It turns out the attacker was Sun himself, who had been hiding in the shadows waiting for his target to step out. He hadn't truly left, just waiting to lure the guy out so the white-haired elder could step up and tell him he was impressing skilled. Seo-won panics when he realizes he let his guard down. However, the old man tells him to calm down and just asks a few questions, so Seo-won panics and wonders who this guy is, only to be told that even if he says it, Seo-won probably won't remember because they all come from different worlds anyway. Seo-won chuckles nervously, knowing deep down that this old man is truly different from anyone he's met before. The old man wonders if Seo-won has played such a game before, and Siowon simply asks him what he means. The old man answers that he's been watching him for a while, noticed how quickly he adapted, and is now sure you already know that none of this is real. Xiao feels spooked by the old man's silent, long watch since he didn't even realize he was being followed, but when he finally speaks up, he explains that while this is his first time in the game world, he's already played a very similar game back home. The old man is fascinated and asks Siowon if the game he just played is the same one they're playing now, while also knowing for certain that they come from different worlds based on how Siowon looks. Just then, the old man realizes it's getting dark, and Siowon tells him they've already been there for 3 days. The old man questions Siowon about whether the moon in his world matches the giant one from the game, only to learn that the game's moon is indeed much larger. The old man asks Siowon to describe the game from his world, but Siowon warns him that it isn't a safe place because they could easily be attacked. Since they're in for a long talk, the old man suggests moving somewhere else, but Xion stands his ground and asks how he could possibly know Xion isn't going to kill him. The old man brushes off the question, grabs him tight, and whispers that he knows exactly what will happen if any noise is made. Before Siowon can figure out what's going on, the old man is already soaring through the air while gripping him tight. Xiao tries to stay silent, his teeth clenched tight. Soon, Siowon reaches the top of the tree, where the old man says they are finally safe. While the old man stands perfectly still on a high branch to soak up energy, Siowon clings tightly to the tree for safety. Siowon explains that his world is one of advanced technology, and the old man agrees, noting how quickly Siowon has adapted to this game world, before wondering how long the old man has been watching him, only for the old man to reveal he has been there since Siowon landed, having planned to enjoy 100 days of fresh mountain air, but becoming captivated by Siowon's actions instead. The old man explained he only spoke because he wanted to know why they ended up in this game world, and urged Siowon to stop being so careful since he has no plans to hurt him. Siowon replies that he still doesn't know why they ended up in the game world, but the old man points out that he said he has a similar game back in his own world. Siowon explains that people play the game for fun and don't actually die, while also telling the old man that no one knows why they were taken from their worlds by mysterious supernatural beings. But Siowon says the game is a great chance for someone, and the old man asks him what he thinks. Siowon tells the old man that death in the game isn't real, because anyone who loses will get a new rank and a reward to match it. Son is convinced that the true rewards waiting in the game world are the powerful skills and martial arts he will learn there. However, he doesn't have proof yet, so Siowon suggests the old man might not need it, but he's convinced that anyone struggling with life will see it as a chance to change their story. The old man asks Siowon why he thinks his own life is without struggles, and Son points out that the man looks like a martial arts master, so he is pretty sure that he has followers back in his world, while Jun says it cannot be compared to someone like him who is pretty useless back in his own world, which is why he said it might be a huge opportunity for people who are struggling in life. And the old man laughs out loud, telling Siowon that he sure says a lot of interesting things, but Siowon urges him to lower his voice so no one hears them. Then the old man asks why Siowon was holding his hands in the air, and that is the moment Siowon realizes the man has no clue how to turn on the map. Sia then shares some useful tips with the old man, and before he realizes it, morning has already arrived. The old man sets the items back down, apologizes for keeping them waiting, but Siowon says it's all right. Deep inside, Siowon knows that staying close to the old man is his only way to feel safe. The old man then asks Siowon if there's any way he can repay him for all the lessons he's learned. Sun jumps right up and asks the old man if he can teach him some of his fighting moves, because he needs to survive until the very end and can't do it without the old man's help. The old man laughs loudly, telling the listener that the wish can come true, but they must also get ready for the worst. Siowon asks what he means, and the man replies that he is talking about death, leaving Siowon the choice to decide his own fate. The old man tells Siowon that success without following the usual rules comes with a steep cost, and he asks if Siowon is ready to pay that price. Siowon breaks the serious mood by reminding him they can't actually die in the game, forcing the old man to agree. Since that's true, the old man realizes he can finally use the method he wants, and Xiao immediately asks if there's a way to get stronger, so the old man says it's worth at least trying. Siowon eagerly asks him what he should do, so the old man suggests testing how much inner energy he has first, only for the man to touch his head in disappointment and find that the power inside him is very weak. The man stares in total confusion after the man claims his own stuff is even smaller than what his house dog has, and Siowon just reminds him that he already said there is no martial arts or internal energy in his world. The old man is completely baffled by what's going on, so he just asks Siowon to sit in the lotus position for now. Before the old man makes his move, he warns Siowon that he will feel such intense pain he'll think he's dying, Yet he won't be able to move, and when Siwon asks what he's supposed to do in that moment, the old man hasn't answered yet. The man warns him to keep going, or he'll end up dead. As the man begins, Siwon's senses go wild, letting him hear and feel everything around him. Everything looks normal until his power surges inside him, and he lets out a scream of agony while begging to know if he's going to die. It's like his very life is bursting out of him until his eyes go completely black. After enduring so much pain, the man finally tells Siwon that it's all over. So his face had already turned pale, but the old man praised him, saying that since he could stand the pain, his body wasn't so bad after all. The old man said he had fixed the flow of Hiski, meaning his body would be completely different from before. Siwon asks what he needs to do, and the old man reminds him that he wanted to get stronger. So he already pulled his spirit back just enough to open a doorway for breathing into that empty space. He says that everyone was born to take in the world's energy just by breathing, but Siwon now has a second gate that lets him pull in special power in ways other than breathing. Siwon asks what changed, and the old man reveals that our body, mind, and soul are held together by something called life chi. He questions Siwon about what happens to a person's life force when they die, and she guesses that it simply vanishes. The old man tells him he's mistaken, but the feeling fades away instead of vanishing completely. Finally, the scattered Lefeki blends back into nature, keeping the cycle of life going. Yet some see this endless loop of logic as a waste and will even kill to take another person's life. People whose bodies are filled with strange foreign energy are unstable, and eventually their inner balance breaks apart, leaving them to either lose their martial skills or die. The old man explains to Sun that his special mind technique lets him soak up scattered life energy to boost his power, which scares Sun until the old man calms him by saying his soul is different and his empty body is like a blank page he simply fixed to handle the energy safely. The man admits that he can sense chi at every death, meaning the mind technique he learned will only work if he kills people. But since he needs to kill others to survive in this game world, this problem isn't really a big deal. The old man was certain that by the end of 100 days, Siwon would have become very strong. The old man realizes it's time to go his separate way and tells Siwon that it would be great to meet up again. Just before he departs, Siwon begs the old man to tell him his name, and with a final nod, the man whispers, Jindon. Siwon bows to Dijin, promising never to forget his kindness, while Dune urges him to practice deep breathing so that by gathering inner strength, he will slowly become stronger. Before he left, the old man used the trick Siwon taught him to pull the map out, and it worked perfectly. Dune then tells Siwon that he'll show up again when the right moment hits. Just then, Dune springs far away, disappearing as if he had never been there. Siwon watches in awe, dreaming that if he could use that same trick, he'd finally be able to move around comfortably. Even so, Siwon heads out to the edge of the small town, just like he planned. After trudging all day, he finally made it to his spot, proving just how huge that map really is. Soon he spots a house with the lights on, and he knows it must be one of two things. It's either an empty house with no one home, or just a clueless newbie who forgot to turn off the lights. Either way, he has no choice but to step inside the house. After looking around for a bit, Siwon only managed to find a few random treasures like healing scrolls and jerky, with nothing truly valuable to his name. Then he realizes he didn't get a wink of sleep the day before because he was too busy chatting with the old man. He then decides to get some sleep, so he wraps himself in the cloak and drifts off. But he slept through it all, and now it's already the 5th day. Xiao soon wakes up to hear a player searching for loot, and he panics when he realizes the sun is already up and he's still sleeping like a log. He snatches up his bow and crouches low, waiting for the player to step into range. The instant the player steps into the room and fires a bolt, the guy reacts so fast he slashes it apart, leaving Siwon terrified of all the martial artists he might run into. Siwon then dives into his hidden stash to throw out a whole bunch of surprise weapons at you. As he fights to stop the daggers, Siwon charges forward and shoves him hard to the ground. He quickly knocks an arrow, aiming to strike the man down, but the man suddenly begs for his life, promising to give Son whatever he needs. But Son ignores him and drives the arrow straight into his head, ending his life. Right after the player's chest popped open from death, Siwon felt a strange green energy in the air and finally understood that the old man was right about the Lefeki. He takes in the chi and is shocked to find his body bursting with power, realizing at last that this is what people call inner energy. Siwon couldn't believe that swallowing just one person's life force made his body feel so light and strong. He opens the status window and sees his inner energy has changed, now sitting at 20 points, which he likely earned from killing that player. Siwon grins at the amazing gift from the old man, then realizes that killing alone to gather chi is a dead end, and he must find a better way. Ziawan checks the player count and is shocked to see only 24 people left after 5 days. As he's busy counting the players, the number slips to 1, and he glances at the kill feed to see who took them out. It seems In just killed that player again. Nam just walks around killing anyone he finds to rush the game to an end. Nam suddenly sees Siawan's name flashing in the kill feed, realizing the guy he's been trying so hard to dodge has just been taking his shots. Siawan realizes he can't beat Nam, especially since he only just managed to defeat the player who charged at him, so he knows he has no choice but to back down. He then looked at the player he just beat, but all he found were useless junk items. After that, Siawan chooses to go into hiding and wait until the game has thinned out enough to be safe. A week later, Son finally sees how lucky he was at the start, since everything he found afterward turned out to be just trash. He stayed hidden in the forest near the restricted zone, hunting werewolves for food so he wouldn't be seen by the players. By the time the 12th day arrives, he is worn out from chewing on jerky, and only 20 players remain. Standing right at the edge of the forbidden area, Siwon reaches his hand in a peek inside, only to feel the sharp sting of pain hit him instantly. Siwon goes crazy when the kill feed shows Nam winning for a whole week, while everyone else seems to be playing it safe just like him. Suddenly, he spots a plume of smoke far away and realizes a battle is taking place. A crowd of players is gathered around, ready to take on Nam, whom they see as their biggest threat. Nam mocks them, daring them to join forces just to take out a single kid. Still, he tells them he's grateful they came to him so he doesn't have to hunt them down one by one, and then asks if they are ready to die just as they came to kill him. Before they even know what's going on, Nam springs into the air and drops straight down on top of one of them. He smashes the guy's head in and takes him out in one hit. A second passes and another foe falls, turning the fight into a one-sided slaughter as Nam wipes them out one by one. Siwon suddenly sees that Nam is going to win unless something crazy and unexpected changes everything. Siwon stares in shock as Nam's name flashes on the screen, showing he just died. He can't believe Nam just took out 9 players at once, so he starts to wonder if Nam is actually hacking. Once Nam finishes with them, he feels absolutely no pity since they didn't even bother to fight back. It's a strange sight to find a mage's staff lying on the battlefield right after Nam completely wiped out the team. Later that day, the archmage walks onto the battlefield, spots his own staff, and realizes with a jolt that it belongs to his student, Elizabeth. The archmage explodes with rage and vows revenge on Elizabeth, while Siwon realizes he just needs to hang around longer to crack the top 10. He knows he's got to grab some serious gear right now if he wants to stay alive. Perched high in a tree, Xiao spots a mansion looming in the distance, realizing it will likely drift outside the safe zone by tomorrow and become the perfect final spot for a farming run. Sun steps into the mansion and is totally stunned by how wildly fancy it looks. He spots a royal guard's armor, but leaves it behind, knowing it would be too heavy to carry. He's sure the mansion holds more treasures, so he keeps exploring. Soon after, he finds a special drink that boosts his inner power, but it takes 3 hours to work. Sun feels thrilled because this way he can power up without stealing anyone's life energy. He kept rummaging through the place, and soon he stumbled on some rare treasures, including an ancient book of martial arts. But he must sit perfectly still for 3 hours to let the magic work, so he can't drink it right away. Soon after, he spots a cellar and feels sure something exciting is about to happen. Suddenly, the whole house blows up and forces Siwon to run away in a panic. He jumps far away, hides behind some bushes, and wonders what's going on since he doesn't think anyone followed him. Suddenly, he sees the archmage far away and realizes the explosion was meant for Nam Sagwon. The archmage praises Nam for surviving his own blast, but Nam threatens to punch him into silence for talking. They had no idea that Siwon was hiding behind them, shocked to see that the Nam who wiped out 90% of the players was just a kid. With his staff raised high, Escrow unleashes a bolt of lightning that Nam barely dodges, only for Escrow to yell at him to stop running and fight like he did against Elizabeth. Nam barely dodged the attack, but he knows Escrow isn't just bluffing because he has never seen anyone that strong, even in John Yuan, and some of Escrow's moves are so scary that they make Nam shake in his boots. Next, Escrow calls down another fierce lightning storm that he means to use to kill Nam. As the lightning surged directly toward him, Nam knew he was doomed if it struck. He dived to the side, just as he leaps toward Escrow, ready to strike him down. Even though Escrow's shield is strong, he smashes Nam's body with his staff. But in the end, it all turns out to be just a trick of the eyes. Right then, the sky opens up with rain, and Siwon sees that Escrow's magic is behind it, proving just how mighty he really is. It turns out the real Nam is trying to run away, but Escrow screams at the top of his lungs, promising to hunt him down and kill him. Nam manages to escape, but he promises to put up a better fight next time. But he is wise enough to know when to pull back and rest so he can come back stronger. Finally, Escrow climbed down to look for Nam, but he was nowhere to be seen. Seowon finally sees that his cloak of hiding is the only thing that kept him alive. Seowon walks over to the cellar he spotted earlier and begins to wonder if it hides a safe with something important inside. He swings the cellar door open and steps into the dark basement below. As he makes his way down in the dark, he's thankful he picked up that lantern while looting yesterday, letting its warm glow show him the path ahead. When he reached the basement and saw food hanging everywhere, he realized it might just be a food cellar. He sighed in disappointment, realizing there were hardly any good things to buy since the only shop open was selling food. But after giving it some thought, he realizes that all he has been eating is boring, tasteless jerky. An hour later, Seowon is grinning with satisfaction after devouring a feast of delicious food. Once he finishes his meal, he realizes it's time to drink the elixir and checks out his martial arts book, The Unrestrained Fist. It seems the man who invented this martial art style gave everything to it, but the art faded away because there weren't enough students to carry the torch. Sun isn't fully won over, yet he sees it as a step up from having nothing at all. He chooses to down the elixir right now and worry about everything else later. After drinking the elixir, Sun screams in pain as his danshin bursts with overwhelming power, realizing the energy flooding his body now dwarfs what he felt just moments ago. He feels his movements growing sluggish, confirming the system's warning that he won't be able to move for 3 hours. 3 hours later, Seowon finally wakes up and lies back on his bed, exhausted from staying still for so long. Seowon feels a deep sense of pride, knowing he stayed alive for over a week without Nam or Escrow putting him down. On the 13th day, Seowon stepped out of the cellar only to find himself right at the edge of the forbidden area, just as he'd feared. He counts the players and is shocked to find only 10 left. He wonders if someone died in the night, and when he checks, he is shocked to find it was Dune, who took his own life, leaving Seowon to question how and why the old man did it. He's thrilled to have made the top 10, but he's not too excited about the way he got there. Just then, the map began to shrink, and Sun realized that dying in the restricted zone after all he'd endured would be a terrible end. He sprints away from the danger zone and decides to keep using the same trick that has kept him alive, knowing that as a weak guy, this is the only way he can ever climb higher. Sun is trying to stay out of trouble when a huge fireball suddenly zooms toward him, putting him in real danger of getting burned. He barely dodges the blast, but dread freezes him as he realizes only Escrow could summon such a deadly fireball, and now he stands face to face with a mage who is furious not because he missed Nam, but because he was mistaken about who the young stranger really was. Shayun realizes he's been spotted because his new inner power made him zoom right into Escrow. Escrow then asks Seowon if he knows where Nam is, because this is the only way to keep him alive. Behind them, Nam smiles wildly in the dark, eager to show them what's coming. Seowon can't help but question Escrow about knowing Nam's whereabouts when they barely know each other, since it makes no sense for Escrow to know anything about that. Escrow keeps noting that Seowon and Nam seem to be from the same place. Just as they are caught up in this, Seowon sees Nam jump out from behind to attack Escrow. Escrow feels a sudden impact against his back, and when he spins around, he sees it was Nam. Nam teases Escrow about being fully healed, but since Escrow has no magic left and Seowon is panicking over Nam's sudden arrival, things are going wild. Nam smashes into Escrow's shield, vowing to end him once and for all, but Escrow just laughs, saying his attack won't even touch him. Before he realizes what's going on, his throat starts to feel like it's ripping open. Nam slipped past Escrow's defenses and mocked him, daring him to admit he's never heard of enhanced energy. It's a rare form of martial art called arm energy, enhanced with special power, but so few people master it that it remains a mystery. Nam admits he never imagined using this in the game world, and he tells Escrow to feel honored since he's the first person he'll ever show this skill to. Escrow clutches his throat in agony, coughing up blood that gushes out as if it were water. Nam tells Escrow that while he could have easily made it into the top 5, his biggest mistake was meeting him. While the other two take care of their business, Seowon is thanking his lucky stars that Nam showed up because Escrow would have definitely killed him otherwise. Seowon grabs his chance while they're distracted and bolts. Nam hits Escrow in the throat one more time, trying to end the fight. While that happens, Seowon spins around to wonder how strong he'll become if he takes their Lafiki inside himself. Escrow lies in his own pool of blood as Nam mocks him for losing his usual arrogance. While Nam tauntingly offers last words, he knows Escrow can never speak since his throat is broken. Suddenly, Escrow jumps into Nam's mind and reveals the shocking truth. The girl he killed was actually his own apprentice. It turns out Elizabeth got kicked out of the academy just because she's a woman, and Escrow wishes he'd stopped her back then. Nam keeps trash-talking and claims he didn't even realize Elizabeth was a woman. But Escrow tells him it's finally time to stop talking. Nam wonders what Escrow means. Just then, Seowon looks up and watches a meteor plunge toward them, causing Nam to panic over how Escrow managed to cast the forbidden ultimate spell, Armageddon, which burns an archmage's very life force to fuel its power. Nam and Sun both sprint away as fast as they can. Sun begins to panic and wishes he had escaped while he still could. The meteor crashes down on Escrow, who is eager to see Elizabeth again soon. The meteor crashes down with such force that it tears everything apart and sets the whole area ablaze like a nuclear explosion. While all this happens, another elf, just like Escrow, is quietly watching from far away. When he realized just how powerful the spell was, he knew only one person could have done it: Escrow. Once the chaos settles, Sewon winces in agony and curses himself for not running when he could have. But he isn't ready to give up yet, so he dives into his special pocket to pull out scrolls that can heal him. He had stockpiled a mountain of healing scrolls ready for exactly this kind of trouble. He realized that without taking the elixir beforehand, he would never have escaped the meteor's deadly reach. Even after using the healing scroll, he still feels so much pain, proving that just one scroll isn't enough. At last, he rips apart every scroll he had saved to heal himself and stop the terrible pain he is feeling. Sun glances at the kill feed, sees that Escrow is truly gone, and sighs in disappointment that he can't steal the enemy's life force. But he notices there is no record of Nam's death, so he wonders if Nam might still be alive. Just then, he hears faint sounds coming from a specific direction, so he follows them. To his absolute shock, he found Nam groaning in pain and begging for help. His legs and arms are ripped away by Escrow's brutal strike. Yet he clutches a healing scroll in his mouth and begs Seowon to help him use it, for he can no longer do it himself. Sun isn't shocked, since he knows dodging a meteor aimed straight at Nam would have been impossible. With both his arms broken and useless for healing scrolls, Nam grabs one from Seowon's mouth to tear it open so he can finally use its power. Then Seowon shocks the dude by revealing that he is actually the popular Nam. Sun admits he's always been curious about the gear that lets him run right through others, and while he was certain Nam would win, finding him so weak came as a complete surprise. Nam begs Seowon to help him out just this once, promising that if he does, Seowon will be the one who walks away as the winner. Sun ignores him, reaches into his subspace to grab his dagger, knowing that stealing Nam's life chi will give him the advantage he needs. As Nam's life flashes before his eyes, he screams at Sun to stop his plan and warns him that many powerful players are still out there. Seowon smiles as he tells him his name, knowing that this is the only thing he'll ever learn about the person who will kill him. Nam screams in pain, but he promises Seowon he will never forget what she did. Seowon ends it by driving his dagger right into the man's head to make sure he's gone for good. As the man draws his final breath, Seowon feels a sting of guilt because Nam still looks so innocent and childlike. The instant Nam falls, the sudden surge of life energy hits Seowon so hard it rattles his very bones. As Seowon drinks in Nam's life energy, treating the man like a pure elixir, the other players watch as the game shrinks, leaving only 8 of them standing. The elf archer spots the truth. With Nam gone, the other players are finally free to move however they please. While Nam left things behind, Seowon decided to take a look at what he dropped. Feeling an incredible surge of power coursing through him, he realizes he's ready to face anyone who crosses his path. Seowon opens the chest and is amazed by how much treasure is hidden inside. He picks up Kaiser's ring, which suddenly makes him much faster and more nimble. There's even a ring that makes you super strong, another that gives you endless energy, and a third that protects you from magical attacks. Seowon stares in shock at his own hands covered in rings, realizing Nam had been quietly farming only the best gear while pretending to be normal and bullying everyone else. After grabbing the rings, Seowon checks his stats and is stunned to see how much they have skyrocketed. With his impressive stats and a new stash of martial arts manuals, Seowon feels ready to win, even though he can't use them yet, because each one needs a skill he hasn't learned first. Just then, he senses someone nearby and is still looking around when a fireball blasts him from behind. A mage suddenly appeared behind Seowon, laughing at him for being careless while looting and calling Nam a fool for dying so easily. Surprisingly, the attack barely even hurts Seowon, who casually turns around to ask the mage's name, leaving the mage in a panic when he realizes Seowon is perfectly fine. Seowon laughs it off, claiming he only caught a glimpse of the blast, and reveals that he walked away unharmed thanks to his incredible magic resistance of 90. Seowon steps closer, but the dude panics and screams for her to stay back. He warns Seowon that another step means another fiery attack, yet Seowon walks right past him, and the flames crash harmlessly against his skin. The mage casts an even bigger spell, causing a massive explosion to erupt. But just as Seowon closes in, he casually throws up a martial arts move he learned, his piercing fist ready to strike. He punches the guy right in the chest, so hard that it feels like his insides have been turned upside down. The mage was blasted so hard he crashed through a tree just to stop himself from flying away. Cyan is stunned to find that the martial art he barely cared about is actually amazing, and it seems its power depends entirely on how much inner energy you have. With just one punch from Seon, the mage falls and the number of players drops to 7. Seowon realizes his magic resistance has climbed to 90 points, making him untouchable to any ordinary mage. He realizes that all the men hiding from Nam are finally coming out, and a very long night is about to begin for him. Seowon then leaps into the tree branches, bouncing around just like Dune now that he's filled with fresh energy. An hour later, he hides in the woods with his cloak active, but he freezes when a loud voice screams his name and demands he come out to face him. The man turns out to be a swordsman named Stano, who has come to avenge his friend the mage. Just as Stanko is loud with bragging, an arrow flies out of nowhere, but he blocks it. He trash-talks the attacker, calling him a coward for trying to sneak up on him. And right then, he sees the archer up in the tree. It's the elven archer, Zorona. Zurikana is shocked that Stanko recognizes him, only for Stanko to reveal that he's a legendary figure known by mercenaries everywhere. Stanko urges them to team up and take down Seowon first, and, after a moment's thought, Zuro jumps down to accept the offer. Stanko tells him he's picked the right path, and then introduces himself to Zuro. Stanko tells Zuro not to worry, because he's famous enough in the guild that he'll never regret this choice. Deep down, Stano thinks Zuro is too dumb to handle, so he secretly has other plans even though everyone thinks Zuro is great. Just then, Zuro muttered something strange while tapping out a countdown on his fingers. Just as he's in the middle of everything, Stano suddenly mocks him for getting too close, reminding him that he's a freaking archer. Stanko raises his huge sword to slash Zuro down, but before the blade can strike, an unexpected arrow flies in and shatters Stanko's head, leaving Zuro to mock the dead warrior for being so terrible that even a stray dog would refuse to touch him, only for Zuro to then realize that the person he is hunting is standing right behind him. Seowon rushes to soak up Stanko's energy, knowing that every single key he finds is worth its weight in gold. Just as Zuro turns around to stare right at where Seowon is hiding, Seowon panics, since his cloak of invisibility should have been working. Seowon panics. Terrified Zuro holds his secret power, but his heart stops dropping when Zuro casually walks away, claiming Stanko's stuff is so trash it's not even worth looking at. Now that Zuro is gone, Seowon collapses to his knees in pure relief, convinced he was truly lost. He acknowledges Zuro's sharp instincts, and, judging by everything happening, worries that Zuro might very well be the one to challenge him next. As Seowon notices the restricted zone shrinking with only 87 days left, he realizes it's tracking the number of survivors, so when he lands in a quiet plain field, he holds his breath to avoid drawing anyone else in with a fight. Right before he could turn and run, a magical blast flew straight at him. Seowon barely dodges the magic blast, yet he's puzzled because it hit the spot he was hiding in. Even as magical blasts rain down on him, he still can't believe they actually saw him. He panics, and sees there's no way to dodge them all at once. With no other choice, he takes a deep breath and throws out a sharp punch to stop the attack coming his way. Seowon blocks the blow and realizes with shock that he is tougher than he ever imagined. Seowon jumps into the air to try to figure out who his enemy is. He scans the area and quickly spots the guy hiding up in the tree. At the same time, the attacker panics after burning through all his magic power, only to fail his killing blow just as Seowon gets ready to strike back. Suddenly, another player steps out from behind and drives a sword into his chest, killing him instantly. The new player sneered at him, saying he'd used up all his mana and should have kept some left over for detecting traps or setting up a protective shield. It looks like the new guy is a killer who leaves no trace at all. As the assassin ends the mage, the player count drops to 5, and Seon finally breaks into the top 5. The killer then looks at Seon and says his name. Seowon is shocked that this stranger knows him, but the assassin says it makes sense since he is the man who killed the enemy number 1, Nam. The assassin warns Seowon that the other players are just as desperate to hunt him down. The killer tells Seowon to stop fighting and just give up because he has never missed a target he ever aimed for. The killer lunges at Seowon with his twin sickles, and Seowon braces himself to block the strike. But the assassin moves so quickly he strikes before anyone can even blink. The assassin slices through Seo-won before he even notices, praising him for being tougher than expected and surviving a strike that should have cut him in half. While Seo-won quietly admits his opponent is indeed powerful, since only his internal energy saved his arm from being chopped off. The assassin tells Seo-won he will surely die, boasting that he has never failed to kill anyone in the dark before. As soon as he hears the word dark, Seo-won realizes the cloak he still possesses can only hide him in the shadows. Just as Seo-won is watching, the assassin suddenly disappears right before his eyes. He sneaks up behind Seo-won, but before he can strike, Seo-won flashes his cloak and vanishes right before the attack lands. The assassin panics and screams Seo-won's name, but Seo-won praises his stealth, noting it's amazing yet still far weaker than the perfect cloak of hiding. Before he can react, Seo-won suddenly appears behind him and drives a knife deep into his back. And when Seo-won tries to call him a coward for the sneak attack, Seo-won just reminds him that he promised to kill him, so he's ready to see exactly how that will happen. Knowing he's about to die, the dude panics and begs them to join forces against everyone else. But his pleas go unheard, and Seo-won stabs him from behind, ending it all right there. With this, only 4 players remain active, and Seo-won steps in to take their energy for himself. He quickly grabbed the healing scrolls they dropped and snatched everything else before he could vanish, because the mess he made was about to attract too much attention. Sun stumbles on a shadow clone manual in the assassin's loot, a trick that lets him summon fighting duplicates, with the count depending entirely on how much power he has inside. The system asks him if he wants to learn the trick, and Seo-won is so relieved the assassin doesn't know about internal energy, because if she did, killing her would have been nearly impossible. On the mage, he discovered a grimoire called Carmen's Eyes, which holds the most powerful detection spell known to pierce any stealth, but he couldn't learn it yet, because his magical circle was too weak to handle it. He finally understood that the mage had found his location because the grimoire could see right through his cloak of hiding. He reads the grimoire when an arrow whizzes past his ear and slices his cheek. Sun immediately knows the archer must be Zuro, since he is the only one left who could possibly be it. Before he can even catch his breath, a magical blast strikes the spot where he stands. His eyes go wide because this is the first time he's seen such a powerful magic attack. But there's no time left for him to try to run away. So, he must pour every bit of his inner power into his fist to unleash his ultimate piercing strike. By pouring everything into that punch, he barely blocks the attack, but he's still hurt. Realizing 2 attacks at once meant he was facing a team, a cheap scanner suddenly popped up behind him and swung its sword at him. Just as Seo-won barely dodges the blow, he realizes he is being attacked by 3 powerful foes at once. The divine archer Zurkana, the demon king's trusted right-hand Chiron, and the mighty king of Kryon, Sinnerk. Now Seo-won stands there, lost and unsure of what he's supposed to do next. Sun feels terrible because right as he was about to win, he bumped into teamers, so his only hope is to make them turn on each other to get out. Since he's never met them, he knows figuring out how they all fit together is going to be a tough puzzle. Chiron greets Sinnerk, but Sinnerk insults him for being a lowly black magician, until Kyon steps in to remind him that working together is far more important than status if they want the best rewards. When Seo-won hears this, he realizes the trio never planned to team up, so he crouches behind a bush and throws his cloak over himself to try to escape the group. Sinnerk insists they handle Seo-won's stealth before teaming up, but Chiron brushes it off since Sinnerk is perfect for the job, and Chiron then waves his hands to summon a mini-sun that banishes the darkness, earning praise from Sinner for being much smarter than he looks. Sun goes crazy because he never imagined anyone could so easily break the cloak of hiding. Chiron talks about how glad he is that Nam actually dealt with Escrow, who would have been a total nightmare. Chiron tells Seo-won that it's now his own turn to fall in the name of the Demon King. Chiron then blasts a spell and dives straight at Seo-won. Seo-won freezes in panic, yet he desperately scrambles to find a way out. He recalls that mages are vulnerable up close, so Seo-won charges at the man, hoping to get within striking distance and drag Chiron into his own magical trap. Kyon sees what he's up to and pushes the magic back, but Seo-won isn't ready to quit. He realizes he must flood his body with as much energy as he can to keep the damage from hurting him. He is determined to blast through that magical attack, no matter the cost. As they work, he's told that his hiding cloak is torn and won't work until it gets fixed. Seo-won stares in shock as his inner power shatters and his secret cloak vanishes. Thinking Seo-won was dead, Kieran stops his attack because he's sure no one could survive the powerful magic he just unleashed. Suddenly, Seo-won bursts out of the explosion and dashes the gap before Chiron even realizes what's going on. He stands covered in blood, but Chiron uses a magic spell to slam him down with grasping, undead hands. Surprisingly, Sinark sneaks up and stabs Chiron in the back, slashing right through him to hit Siowon too. Chiron can't believe the so-called king acted so cowardly, and Sinark defends him by claiming victory is the only true honor, insisting he never promised to work with Chiron. As Sinark laughs at Chiron's final breath, he thanks him for looking after Siowon. Centaur then looked at Zuro, who stood alone on the cliff edge, and said they were the only ones left. But Zuro just smiles and tells him he's celebrating way too soon. He's lost until Siowon suddenly pops up and knocks him flying with a solid punch. Sinark's armor breaks apart as he flies through the air and crashes into a wall, causing a huge explosion. With Sinark missing, Siowon realizes only he and Zuro can move forward, and while Zuro praises Siowon for surviving what he thought was a fatal blow, he reveals that Siowon was actually just a clone all along. But Siowon snaps at him to shut up and just fight. Zuro tells Siowon to calm his impatience because he has more urgent things to handle right now. It turns out Sinark survives Siowon's attack, and despite his bloody face, he looks stronger than ever. Sinark can't believe Siowon is still alive even though his sword seemed to strike true, only to realize it was just a fake, while also being amazed that Siowon managed to shatter Krisen's most prized armor. Feeling the danger closing in, Siowon rips off his shirt, shouts at Centaur to shut up, and challenges the two attackers. Are you coming at me one by one, or are you going to jump me together? Sinark warns Siowon that he is about to regret pushing him to give everything. Sinark suddenly disappears and reappears right in front of Siowon, so quickly that the next thing Siowon knows is his sword stabbing through Siowon's left arm. Sinark laughs in Siowon's face, bragging that no one has ever beaten him at speed before, revealing he broke Siowon's arm as part of his plan all along. Siowon screams in horror as the centaur's speed blindsides him, shattering his belief that the beast was just a muscle-bound oaf. Still, Siowon refuses to lose because he worked too hard to get here and chooses to trust the strength inside him. Siowon doesn't hesitate and shatters Sinark's rapier. Then he reaches in and pulls out the broken piece still stuck inside his arm. He then launches it at Sinark with a powerful chi palm strike. The blade slices through Sinark's face, and Siowon's destruction of his beautiful features only makes Sinark angrier. Without hesitation, Siowon pulls out a healing scroll, rips it apart, and uses the magic to mend his wounded arm. Left with only half a blade, Sinark summons his aura blade and praises Siowon for forcing him to take this desperate step. He quickly stands back up and decides to give everything he has. He snaps his fingers, and 8 shadow clones burst into existence at once. Sinark admits Son is a real pain with his tricks, but Sinark is sure he'll be the one to win in the end. While Sun shouts that Sinark is a fraud, he warns him to get ready because Sun is going all out too. Sinark agrees, urging them to face each other immediately without wasting a second. Deep inside, Sinark knows his aura blade will fade in just 2 minutes, so he must end a fight or he'll lose his only shot at victory. While Son knows his energy is almost gone, he has to end the fight right now. Siowon breaks into a sprint and lunges straight at Sinark. Centauric raises his sword to strike, only for Siowon to catch him off guard from behind and deliver a powerful punch straight to his back. Sinark angrily spins around and swings at Siowon, only to find a clone instead, leaving him shocked that the hits he felt so real were just for a fake. Now that we're here, Sinark makes the hard choice to kill every clone without even looking for the real body. Just as he was lost in his thinking, Siowon suddenly appeared and punched him right in the face with all his might. The punch was so hard that Sinark couldn't tell if the Siowon who just hit him was really him. It's like Siowon can read his mind, so he yells at him to stop looking for the real body since his clones can hit them from anywhere. In truth, these copies are just as good as the real thing, and Sinark won't be able to tell the difference. Just then, 2 clones merge their attacks to rush at Sinark, but he barely escapes by leaping backward. Once the clones are found out, Sinark swings his aura blade and cuts both of them down in a single strike. By killing 2 clones at once, he realizes their toughness is terrible. And now he's down to just 5 clones, the last one standing before he wins. But he only has about a minute left to swing that aura blade. Meanwhile, Zuro is shocked to see Sinark fighting so hard against Siowon. Sinark screams at Zuro to stop watching and join the battle to take down Siowon, promising him anything he wants once they're home if he helps them win. Zuro casually tells him to keep his eyes on his opponent. Sinark spins around right as Siowon charges at him. He snaps into action, slashing out with his glowing aura blade, but Siowon bows low and lets the blade whistle harmlessly past him. Soen slams his palm forward with all his might, only to be surprised when someone steps in and stops the blow. With no defenses left, Centaur is free to do anything he wants. He doesn't hesitate, driving his blade straight into Siowon's chest to make a huge hole. Before he can cheer, Siowon disappears, showing that he only took down a copy, not the real person. In the end, Sinnerk feels let down and realizes Siowon has been playing tricks on him the whole time. Seeing Sinnerk get humiliated sends him into a rage, so he screams at Siowon that he doesn't care about winning anymore and vows to destroy him with all he has left. Zuro spots the change and sees that Sinnerk has become the terrifying king of madness. Then Sinturek swings his glowing blade with such insane speed that the air itself seems to burn. He sprints at the two cyan wounds right in front of him and rips them apart with a single strike. Now he knows there are only two left to fight, the real him and the clone. Two bodies then charge at Sinturek, hammering him with brutal blows. Sinturek catches the body on his right, only to realize it's another clone, so he knows the one left to fight must be the real Son. The two then leap at each other, hoping to end the fight with one powerful hit. Sinnerk swings to hit, but Siowon stands ready and stops the blow with his feet. Sinnerk admits Siowon is skilled in hand-to-hand fighting, but he's hiding another trick up his sleeve. Sinturek then unleashes his lightning aura blade to strike with such force that it shatters Son's body. Sun slams down onto the ground in agony, begging Sinturek to stop before Zuro becomes the only one to gain anything from their struggle. But Sinnerk doesn't even look at him. He thrusts his sword right into Siowon's chest and kills him instantly. Just as Sinturk's special aura blade power fades, he breathes a sigh of relief that he managed to take down Siowon right in the nick of time. Right as he gets ready to cheer, he suddenly realizes something is deeply wrong. He realizes that killing Siowon still doesn't feel like he truly defeated a real person. Before he knows what's going on, someone pops up behind him and grabs his head. He crashes his head in and breaks Sinnerk's skull right there, ending the fight instantly. With Sinnerk defeated, Siowon admits he only survived by wearing the enemy down with his clones, leaving the final battle between himself and Zuro. Zuro chuckles, admitting he didn't expect Siowon to actually take down Sinnerk, then thanks him for getting rid of that real pain in the neck. Zuro told Siowon he had no hope left against the stubborn Sinnerk, then calmly drew his bow and said it was time for Siowon to die by his hand. Soen watches in horror as an arrow zooms toward him, ready to smash right into his head. Before the arrow could touch him, Siowon had already drained the life force right out of Sinner. Though it isn't as much as he received from Nam, he's convinced it's enough to face Zuro. Before Zuro can strike, he suddenly splits into shadow clones and charges straight at him. Zuro is so fed up with Siowon using that annoying clone trick again that he pulls out his bow and gives a cold smile. He fires an arrow straight at Siowon, but finds the real him, not a copy. A blow to the leg sends Siowon crashing down, and while he lies there, Zuro steps in to tell him there's no way out this time. He keeps his promise by shooting arrows into Siowon's hands to pin him down. "Ouch, I'm in pain," Siowon shouted, turning to Zuro to ask how he knew right away which one was really him. Zuro grinned, admitting he was just guessing. Siowon refuses to believe it, yet Zuro's arrow is already aimed at his head, commending him for reaching the end and offering respect that Siowon angrily rejects, telling him he doesn't need such damn respect. Zuro shoots an arrow straight into Siowon's head, killing him instantly and winning the game. Siowon wakes up in the waiting room to see Zuro standing right over his body. He groans in frustration at having to let Zuro win the prize after all his hard work, knowing full well that he himself took advantage of Nam when he was weak. The system tells Siowon he made the top 2 and now has what it takes to play in the next game, and Siowon confirms that the next game is indeed coming. They told Siowon he had earned 140 reward coins from his kills, but he was confused about what those coins actually meant. Suddenly, the system gathered all of Siowon's collected items, and as they appeared, Siowon realized he had found some truly amazing loot that he could keep by spending his reward coins. Son sees the shadow clone trick and panics when he realizes it costs 130 coins, nearly every single one he has left. To everyone's shock, the system tells him that the top 5 survivors get to spin a lucky wheel to win a random prize. Son is shocked to find a surprise twist, and since he finished in second place, he gets to spin twice to make it even more exciting. Cyan is thrilled because finding the cloak of hiding or the shadow clone would let him save his coins. As the wheel begins to spin, the very first image to appear on the screen is the shadow clone. Shawun screams wildly, begging the wheel to freeze exactly where it stands. But it halts right as it reaches Escrow's necklace. Siowon grips his head in frustration over all the moves he could have made, so he decides to just go for the cheapest one. Siowon can't believe he traded a treasure trove of loot for trash, but then a spark of hope ignites, reminding him he still has one last shot to turn things around. He instantly yells out to every god he knows for help. The wheel begins to spin, and as it reaches the subspace ring, he screams out just like before to tell it to stop, but it keeps going anyway. To everyone's shock, it finally landed on the shadow clone choice this time, and Sun went absolutely wild with joy. Shawun realizes that by saving his coins, he can afford other great things, especially since creating shadow clones costs the most. He is given the shadow clone technique, and the system lets him spend his coins to buy new things. As soon as he finishes, he'll be moved on automatically. After taking his time to check over his loot, Siowon made his choices instead of wandering around aimlessly. Before he knew it, he had finished picking out his stuff, and the system wished him luck for the next match. Siowon flies through empty space and suddenly finds himself back in the alleyway where he first vanished. He holds the subspace ring from the game in his palm, proving right then that it all really happened. He slipped the ring onto his finger before grabbing his bag and heading out. As he walks off, Sun smiles with a new feeling deep inside, knowing he has changed forever. Siwon knows the next game is coming, so he has to start getting ready. Siwon is ready to win the second game at any cost. Sun walks over to the small apartment his parents gave him, which is just a short walk from school. He was meant to stay put and study for his English test before heading back to school. Now his eyes are fixed on getting stronger using everything he brought back from the game. The moment Siwon steps into his room, he sits cross-legged because he refuses to start the next game like a beginner, only to realize his energy is empty and wonder if he spent it all during the final fight. Siowon realizes he should follow the old man's lessons to heal himself as much as he can. Siowon recalls the old man's words from the game, who had asked if he was truly ready to grow strong like him. 4 hours into his training, Siowon groaned in frustration as he realized he barely had any inner energy left. Son sees that the real world is nothing like the game, and things are moving so slowly that it will take him years just to feel a single emotion again. Son stops wasting time and starts sorting through the things he brought back. As he rummaged through his things, he sighed, wishing he'd landed a stronger fighting style instead of the one he received. Then he realizes he'll have to learn the martial art step by step, much like building up his inner strength. He suddenly sees that if this is true, becoming strong is impossible for now. The system offers Siowon a chance to learn the martial art, and suddenly it hits him that the game's magic is real in the world around him. Siowon begins flailing his arms and legs around his room, practicing his martial art moves. Once he finishes learning it, he realizes it can't compare to the feeling of being full of inner energy. Siowon rummaged through his storage and spotted Escrow's necklace right there among the stuff he'd brought. Knowing the necklace was made of pure gold, Siowon takes a bite to check, and to his shock, it's real gold. Siowon realizes that the necklace is heavy enough to be made of solid gold, which means it's worth at least 10 million. As soon as he sees the necklace is cheap but worth a fortune, his goblin eyes go wide with the realization that he could become rich by returning 10 of them from the next game. The necklace might be useless in the game, but it's actually quite valuable in real life. He also found a special drink made from troll blood that promises anyone who takes a sip to stay perfectly healthy for an entire year. Sun only took it back because the sound was so tempting, and if he can sell it to a wealthy terminal patient, he could ask for whatever price he wants. Right now, Siowon is sure the game is going to be his big break. Just then, his tummy let out strange noises, reminding him that he'd been eating trash while too busy farming to notice he was hungry. Siowon realizes it's finally time for him to eat some real food. Then Siowon heads over to Grandma's dinner and orders a set meal. Soon, Siowon is served the 50,001th set meal, a dish he used to think was too fancy to ever afford. Tears stream down his face as he savors something delicious for a moment after nearly dying from eating that jerky. The grandma notices him crying and tells him to stop because it will ruin his appetite, especially since he was still eating there just yesterday. Xiao tells the woman that the food is so delicious it has made him cry. Suddenly, Siowon realizes that the minutes ticking in the game never add up to the seconds passing in the real world. Once he finishes, he thanks the old woman for the food, and she tells him to stop complaining while inviting him to return. As Siowon strolls down the street, he keeps wondering when the next game will begin so he can recharge his inner energy. Siowon recalls bringing the Ring of Strength and resolves to test its power. He slips the ring on his finger and wonders if it feels as magical in real life as it did in the game. Siowon decides to give it a try by taking a leap. To his surprise, he bounces so high in the air that he comes crashing back down to the ground in a split second. He is amazed by the power surging through his veins, but worries that nobody saw what he just did. Siowon knows that if anyone finds out how strong he is, he's just signing himself up for big trouble. Siowon then heads back to his room to try out something he had never dared to use before. But he changed his mind because the game's plans are finally coming true in real life. Seo-won digs into his storage and pulls out the priciest thing he brought, a glowing elixir of insight that costs 50 coins. He remembers that during the game, he couldn't move for 3 hours after taking the elixir and felt like his insides were burning. Sun chugs down the potion, and before it can even settle in his stomach, it starts to work its magic. Energy shoots out of every hole in his body as he screams in pain. 3 hours later, Siwon's neighbor called the police because the wall was getting so hot it was scary. The woman explained to the 2 officers that she had tried to knock on Sion's door, but the handle was so hot she couldn't touch it, and the officers told her she should have called the fire department instead of calling them. The officer shrugs off her complaint about the heat since there's no fire, suggesting Sion just turn the boiler up too high, but she stands her ground until a cop runs to the door only to get burned by the handle and scream in pain. The old lady grabs the chance to say, "I told you so." The officers shout to anyone inside the house and tell Siwon to open the door. When Siwon heard the police's plea, he slowly pulled back the door to reveal officers staring in shock at the sweat pouring down his face. Siwon says he only cranked up the boiler because he felt a little feverish. His face turned bright red from the heat, yet he still claimed the fire department should have been called instead of the police. The police say they are still coming to check on him and ask if he wants an ambulance, but Xiao refuses, insisting it's just a mild cold and that he'll be fine after some rest. The police decide to leave once Siwon says he's okay, and they tell the old lady to stop calling them for this kind of trouble because it just makes their work stressful. Xiao slammed his door shut and collapsed to the floor, realizing that the elixir's energy felt like boiling fire, and he could only hold it back because of his white martial physique arts. This warning tells Siwon that unlike the game, real-life elixirs still carry danger, yet he has no choice but to test his skill anyway. He then brings his unstoppable fist forward, unleashing such a mighty punch that his chair instantly shatters. Xiao can see the techniques work wonders, yet he still has to sell a few of his treasures just to afford a chair for himself. The next day, Siwon rushed to a busy public gym to practice, only to quickly regret his choice as he got pushed around in the huge crowd. He's right in the middle of his training when he sees some high school delinquents. The group's leader takes a drag on his cigarette when an old man steps up to scold him, but the leader just laughs and tells the old man to get lost, pointing out that his own parents say nothing about his smoking. The old man kept talking, claiming the kid's parents clearly failed to raise him right. That instantly angers the guy, and Sun can tell something terrible is about to happen. Just as the bad kid lifts his arm to slap the old man, Shin bursts out from nowhere and kicks him right in the face. The dude crashes into the wall, completely helpless, while Shun stands firm and tells him that hitting an old man, no matter how rude, is never right. Suddenly, a large delinquent shows up, and Siwon realizes he's made things way more complicated than he thought. It turns out Siwon, the guy we just kicked, is actually the big guy's younger brother. The big guy asks Siwon if he beat up his brother, and Siwon says his brother started it by being rude to the elders. Siwon warns a guy that high schoolers need to know smoking in public is against the rules and will get them in trouble. Xiao laughs at the guy, saying he should have taught his younger brother better, while Siwon admits he might have gone too far, but had no choice but to do it. Just as Siwon kept talking, the big guy swung his fist right at him. Siwon sidesteps the blow and slams his fist into the attacker, sending him flying across the distance. The big guy groans in agony as he coughs up blood, while Siwon panics because he couldn't hold back his strength. The big guy refuses to stay down, instead reaching for a butterfly knife and declaring that he's going to kill Siwon. Siwon notices this and realizes the brothers are cut from the same cloth. The big guy charges at Siwon and swings wildly, but Siwon slips out of the way. The guy throws another punch, but Siwon dodges it with ease, realizing as the fight goes on that normal people are far too easy to beat. Siwon gets fed up with the guy swinging around and dives low to kick him in the foot, knocking him down. Before Siwon throws his punch at the guy, he realizes he has to hold back his power, because if he goes too hard and misses, he's in big trouble. He chooses to use only half his power and lands a palm strike that sends the opponent flying through the air and crashing face first into a tree, leaving him horribly scarred while everyone around starts snapping photos in shock. But Siwon is the most shocked of all, since he never meant to beat that guy up so badly. He nervously laughs at the guy who's already out cold, telling him to quit acting. Siwon then walks over to the brothers, telling them to behave themselves from that moment forward, and before things get a little out of hand, he rushes off from the scene. As he walks away, Siwon begins to wish he hadn't shown his strength to an ordinary person, because if they had both died, his life would surely be over. Siwon realizes he needs real training to master his power. A month later, Siwon is peacefully meditating in his room when his mother calls to ask if he has eaten. The woman called Siwon because she hadn't heard from him and started to get worried. She asks him how the academy is, and he tells her it's going okay. He knows he can't tell her that he's been training in martial arts instead of studying. Seo-won then asks about his father, and the woman delivers a shocking blow by telling him that his father was in a car accident. Seo-won goes wild at the news, frantically demanding to know how terrible it is and how it even happened. The woman explains that while his father was out making deliveries, a car ran a red light and crashed into him, leaving them facing a huge medical bill that has her already worried. Then, in a moment that breaks her heart, the woman asks Seo-won if he has any spare allowance left so she can send it to them. Seo-won quietly asks his mother how much the surgery will cost, and she tells him it'll be around 1 or 2 million. Son reaches into his storage space to grab Escrow's necklace, and he tells his mother not to worry too.